What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. Today for you, I've got the UFC London recap video. I missed the breakdown for this because I was out of town. I'll have a breakdown for 291 this week. We've got a crazy card. But before we do that, before we match make tomorrow, let's talk about what happened. So I went 11-4, solid week. There was no Savage Rounds parlay. That's 2 weeks in a row because I missed the predictions video, but we will have one back this week. There are a few plays I'm already looking at that I like, but like I said, we'll talk about that later. The ones I missed on before we go over, the ones I got right, Parsons and Roberts. That one started off okay. Roberts looked good early. He was taking some big shots, but he was also dishing back. Good. He was doing good body work. He was throwing big shots up top too. He was competing in the first round. He got clipped at some point. And then in the second round, he just started brawling. There was no, he was taking big shots well early, but as soon as one got to him, and obviously, I knew that was going to be how Parsons got this done if he did, but I went in thinking Roberts would be able to avoid that early. Parsons would start to tire, and Roberts would be able to avoid that with Parsons tiring, but it just didn't go that way. He was able to catch him, and gas tank wise, Parsons didn't really expel too much energy, but he clipped him. Danny Roberts started to brawl, and that is exactly what Parsons was looking for. They end up getting into a brawl, and Parsons is just landing huge shots. He obviously had the power advantage in this one. Good debut performance. And Danny Roberts, obviously he's on not the best streak right now, but he's a vet, tough guy, and a solid fighter overall. So yeah, good win in your debut after some extended time off due to like concussion symptoms or something after his Contender Series win. Next up, I missed on Jai Herbert and Fares Ziam. I thought in the stand-up Jai Herbert would be able to do more than he did, and then as soon as Fares Ziam realized he could mix in the wrestling, and he started doing that, Jai wasn't really able to get completely away from it. Let me pull up and see. Yeah, 4 minutes of control time. He didn't do as much grappling as I thought he would. It was a lot of cage time too up against the fence. They did a lot of like spinning and turning on the fence with Fares. Just seeming like the stronger guy in some exchanges and doing more work in those clinches. But yeah, I mean, just on the feet, I thought Jai was going to be able to do more, and defensively, Fares did pretty solid and was able to do and put out more output. So good win for Fares Ziam getting back. I think he's on a 2-fight win streak now. Yeah, 2-fight win streak after losing to McKinney. So not too bad from him. It'll be interesting to see who he fights next. I didn't do a matchup for him. But anyway, next one I lost, Craig Muniz. I really did think Muniz would have looked better on the feet there. He didn't really get to doing what I thought he was going to be able to do, and then he really didn't have I don't want to say the grappling advantage, but it was just like on the ground, the size mattered more than I thought it would. Paul Craig looked pretty big, and he was just physically stronger than Muniz. He looked good. Muniz got tired in the second round after eating some big shots, and Paul Craig was able to get him out of there with some elbows. Really good middleweight debut. It'll be interesting to see who he fights next. I had an idea before, well, not before, because I guess he did call out Bo, but before I saw the Bo call out, and so I don't know, I'll probably still put that one out, but I'll talk about the Bo matchup too in the matchmaking. And then last one I missed on, Molly McCann, Stoliarenko. I really thought Stoliarenko was going to struggle with the weight cut more than she did. To be honest, it didn't look like she struggled at all. She looked good on the scale, and looked good in the performance. She was able to get Molly McCann down and do whatever she wanted. She got the armbar in the end. They were up against the cage in kind of a weird spot, and she just flipped Molly McCann over. Good work from Stoliarenko. First win in flyweight, and now Molly McCann is moving down to strawweight 115. I didn't make a matchup for her, but maybe now that she announced she's moving down, I will, just because that'll be interesting to see who she gets first. So maybe I'll add an extra matchup, but I'm not sure yet. Next up, just talking about each of the fights. Filio Perez, that was sick. It was a 1-round fight, but man, was it a banger from start to finish. Perez came out, looked really good on the feet, stuffed a couple takedowns early, and was just hurting Filio to the body, landing good shots up top too, but really doing good work to the body, landing big kicks as well. And he dropped Filio twice, I want to say within the first 2 minutes of the round, doing good work to the body. He looked really good, and then as soon as Perez cracked Filio at one point, had him backing up against the cage, and Filio just started winging hooks, and he kind of caught Perez with one, had him backing up, and was able to turn that into a takedown. And once it was on the ground, we know how good Filio is. We saw him do what he did against Makayev, give him a good fight, tear up his knee like he did. Makayev just didn't tap. Most people would tap to that. Filio was too talented on the ground for Perez. Was able to get him out of there in the end of the first. Really good from him. Bruno Brazil, Bannon. A lot of people betting on Bannon because of how Brazil looked against Denise Gomes. Just getting cracked and getting finished in that fight. And people were high on Bannon. Watching tape, I didn't see what they were liking at all, to be honest. I mean, she's okay. She's got decent volume on the feet. She's an okay grappler. But I just thought the length would cause her problems. And Bruno Brazil, although she may not have like one-shot knockout power, her technique is really good, and that's what she was able to prevail with. She's the bigger girl too, and I think that helped shucking off takedowns and just in the grappling department. Next up, Duncan Ashmoos. Went about how I thought it would, other than the fact that Ashmoos completely snapped his wrist in the first round. Regardless, to be honest, I think on the feet, obviously Ashmoos would have been able to wing different shots at him and put together different combinations and be a threat of the takedown. But I just thought Duncan was going to be better on the feet than him, and be able to get out of the way of the big shots. I just think Duncan is a better striker in that sense, and he's the bigger guy. I thought the takedown defense would have been able to hold up, or he would have been able to get up pretty well if he got taken down. I just thought Duncan would have done well even without the arm break, but tough for Ashmoos. He didn't really get to do much in the fight before his arm broke. I want to say it was like halfway through the first round, so tough for him. Vieira Kianzad, Vieira was just too big. The takedowns were good. Kianzad wasn't able to stop him, and Vieira was a wet blanket on top. Good performance. I mean, to be honest, like I said, I didn't get to do a breakdown on any of these. I posted my picks on Twitter, but that's about how I thought that would go. I thought she was going to strike more than she did and work in the takedowns, but she just went straight for the grappling and was a wet blanket on top the whole time, like I said. Next up, Muradov and Barberena. Barberena moving up for the first time. Did better defensively on the takedowns than I thought he would, but it wasn't enough. Muradov was able to have a lot of control time on the ground and up against the cage as well, and some like awkward trying to get up positions for Barberena. And then on the feet, Muradov was just too technical and too powerful. He would kind of back up and sidestep Barberena's little rushes and flurries and just hit him with big shots. Good kicks, really nice work from Muradov. I'll be interested to see who he gets next. And Barberena, tough spot for him. I assume he'll stay at middleweight, but I'm not fully sure. To be honest, it'll be interesting to see who he gets next as well, and like how short of a leash he's on, like losses wise. Next up, the debut of Mick Parkin and Jamal Pogues. I think this was his second UFC fight. Parkin looked good. He was able to do well on the feet. I was doing stuff during this fight, and the Barberena fight. I was able to watch most of the Barberena fight. I missed a little bit of the end of it. But I was doing something and watching the Parkin fight at the same time. So let me pull up stats and stuff just to kind of reinforce what I thought. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, like I said, I didn't see every second of every round, but from what I saw, it was good boxing work on the feet. He was able to avoid poke shots and land his own, and just like striking stats wise, that's kind of what it shows. Not a very high percentage, or not a very high landing percentage for Pogues. Good amount of shots landed, good volume for Parkin. Good performance in his debut against a guy who already has a win in the UFC. So yeah, like I said, good win. Mark Jacasey versus El Fenomeno Alvarez. It was a tough break for Jacasey. Alvarez looked really good in the first round, and Jacasey realized, or maybe not realized, but finally went for a takedown at the end, because I was going to say he realized he could go for it, but I mean, I think he knew he wouldn't face resistance getting the takedown. He was just worried about how it would go on the ground, and he did a little bit of groundwork at the end of the first after getting beat up on the feet pretty bad. The Muay Thai from Alvarez is so good, so fun to watch. Just such a big guy, so powerful, so lanky, and he's awkward on the ground just because he's so lanky. So he was making life tough for Jacasey, throwing elbows and stuff, and always moving, trying to find a way to get up or a submission. Jacasey wasn't really able to get much done. Then the second round, same kind of deal. Jacasey gets reversed, and Alvarez is on top for a little bit and does more work than Jacasey had done. And then they get back up. There's a head clash, and he goes down. He's like waving to the ref to stop it, but the ref didn't see it, unfortunately for him. Alvarez puts a little combination on him and drops him and is able to find the sub. Tough break for Jacasey, but another win for Alvarez. To be honest, I think he would have gone on to win that fight anyway. It was too tough for Jacasey to get anything off on the ground. And I think the damage on the feet was always going to outweigh just a few minutes of control time in the second and third, depending on how that went, if it got there. But it didn't. Grant Marcos, I was right about this one pick-wise. I went with Marcos, but I do not think he won that fight. I don't think, most people don't think he won that fight. I even had him in a parlay, and when they announced the decision, I'd already thought I lost the parlay. So, I mean, another tough break, this time for Davy Grant. I thought he should have gotten the win. He did more throughout the fight. Marcos, he was pretty solid defensively, but it just didn't. He had a few good shots that bloodied Davy Grant up, but it didn't seem like it was like crazy damage overall. It was just a few shots that bloodied him up, and it looked like a lot of damage because of how the blood was spread around Grant's face. It just felt like Grant did more over the course of 3 rounds. Tough break for him. Murphy Culibao. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be honest. Murphy did get a knockdown. He a lot of control time. I thought he would go to the wrestling just because that's where he had the advantage. Obviously, Culibao has some submissions in his bag, but I thought on top Murphy would be able to do pretty well, and on the feet as well. Good volume, good accuracy. He was landing pretty well. Like I said, got that knockdown. He won every round, just dominated the fight. Culibao, I don't want, like, they weren't like, he wasn't getting killed other than the one round where he got dropped, but he clearly lost each round. Then I talked about Herbert Ziam, talked about Craig Muniz, Wood and Feely. This was fight of the night. I guess I'll kind of spoil it there. My favorite fight of the night. I can't remember if the actual award was given to this fight. I mean, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I guess it could go to Roberts and Parsons, but it was 2 rounds. I just thought the Wood Feely one deserved it, so that's why I ended up giving it to him. But they each dropped each other in the first round. I felt like Wood was doing just more and better work. Um, Other than when they both got dropped, Feely does good work to drop him again in the second, but with Wood dropping Feely in the first after Feely had already dropped him, it kind of gave him that edge. You remembered it, and then he was able to do more after. So it felt like he dominated that round because he did the most at the end, and I gave him that round. Obviously, Feely took the second, and then the third, you could tell they were both hesitant. They both wanted to win the round, but neither of them wanted to get dropped. So, like I said, it was a bit hesitant from them, but I did think Wood did a bit more and edged out that third round. I gave him the fight 29-28, and it ended up being unanimous to him. He looked good. How many wins is that for him at featherweight now? Let me count real quick. I believe he fought Rosa. Yeah, Rosa, Jourdain, and Feely. So 3-0, looking good up a weight class. He's really quick. Got solid power for the weight class. I'm excited to see who he fights next. He's definitely moving up the ranks. I do have an interesting fight for him that I'll talk about in tomorrow's video. I talked about Molly McCann, Stolyarenko. Yeah, rough for Molly McCann. Just couldn't do. Her jiu-jitsu just isn't good enough. Her grappling in general isn't good enough. And Stolyarenko was able to exploit that. Then we had the return of Tom Aspinall, and he took on Marcin Tybura in his first matchup. I think a lot of people thought Aspinall would run through him if he was back at full strength and the knee wasn't going to bother him, and he was fully good to go and didn't injure it again during the fight. And yeah, that's what it was. He looked good. There wasn't nothing really happened overall. How long did the fight go? A minute 13. So Aspinall was landing a bit more. They were kind of bouncing around a little bit early. Aspinall was moving around the cage, landing good combinations, and they kind of collide at one point. It looks like Tybura goes to throw a combination, and Aspinall steps in with an elbow, and he's kind of off balance and comes back with like a left hook and a 2 type of deal, and drops Tybura. He falls back. Aspinall jumps on top really quick and is able to ground and pound him out. Tybura has his arm up, but it's kind of stuck, and he's not really defending himself at that point. Really good finish from Aspinall. Picks up where he left off. I thought he would have beaten Blades. It'll be interesting to see if they ever get to fight again, and who Aspinall fights next, because of how, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth in the matchmaking video, but because of how the heavyweight division is set up, it's kind of interesting what they've got to do with him, because if John Jones is retiring after Stipe, they might have to wait to make Aspinall Pavlovich. But yeah, like I said, I'll talk about that a little bit. I already gave away fight of the night. I'm going with Nathaniel Wood and Feely. Great performances from both guys. Really close fight. Some people gave it to Feely. I think most gave it to Wood. I agree. I was on the Wood side. Great performance from both guys, like I said. Performance of the night. Jafel Filo, the comeback was insane. I was super impressed. I picked him to win, and I didn't think Perez would be able to do that much damage early. I thought he would be a tough guy to bang with on the feet, but I didn't think he would hurt Filio like that much that early. But to bounce back, show the toughness, it was pretty cool to watch, and then get the finish at the end of the first. Great stuff, really fun. Johnny Parsons bangs it out with a really good, tough guy who's done it against some other good guys like Jack Della Maddalena. Good win to have in your debut. Like I said, after taking some time off due to concussion symptoms after that Contender Series win, which Contender Series is starting up pretty soon. I'm really excited for that. I'll see if I end up doing predictions or maybe just like a recap video. I don't know. I still have to figure that out. Last performance bonus, it has to be Tom Aspinall to come back like that after hurting your knee pretty bad. I think he tore his MCL, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it was ACL. I'm pretty sure it was MCL. But yeah, comes back, dominates Marcin Tybura. Like I said, picks up right where he left off. And I'm excited to see who gets next. Big winners of the night. I think I only have 2 winners and 2 losers. I looked for 3. There were some guys I could have put in, but it just felt like they didn't. I don't know. They didn't quite fit into the category. Like, they were close, but not quite deserving of the winner or loser spot. So I went with 2 for each of them. First up, Paul Craig, going down a weight class. being a pretty sizable underdog. A lot of people thought Muniz was going to be able to look pretty good on the feet and just have better grappling overall, but the size mattered. Paul Craig looked really good, really strong, and was able to wear on Muniz and find the finish. Good win in his 185 debut. He's right up there in the rankings already. It'll be interesting to see tomorrow, when the rankings come out, where he is. Next up, it has to be Tom Aspinall. Just like I said for the performance bonus, you have to give it to him. Came in, did what he was supposed to do. I can't say it enough times. Picks up where he left off. Can't wait to see his next fight. I do think with John Jones out of the picture, most likely... I clicked the button by accident. But most likely, I do see a path to the belt for Tom Aspinall. I'll talk about that in the matchmaking video. First loser, Davy Grant. Not because of the performance, not because he got injured, because he got robbed. It was a solid performance versus a good undefeated up-and-comer who already got his first win in the UFC, a good finish in the first round, and did well on Contender Series as well. And it's crazy too. Like, you shouldn't ever be given a decision you don't deserve, but to not be given a decision you do deserve in your hometown, I don't know, crazy. I really did think Grant won. I know some people were saying Marcos won, but one watch, I may watch it again just to see if it becomes like a big thing on Twitter, but I don't know. In the moment, I thought Davy Grant won. Last loser of the night, Molly McCann. I believe, let me double check, but I believe it's a 2-fight losing streak. The second of her UFC stint. Yeah. This is her second 2-fight losing streak in the UFC. Both finishes this time. The last 2-fight losing streak, they were both unanimous decisions, but she's been finished twice in a row after getting 2 consecutive knockouts. She's moving down a weight class, which we found out earlier today. Yeah, I mean, tough break in your home, not home city, but home country. The crowd was definitely pulling for her, and I felt like, not they were tossing her a layup, and obviously Stoliarenko got the win, but they were definitely tossing her a fight she could win. But, the grappling just still isn't up to par. Tough night for her. Moving down to 115 now, like I said. Next up, tomorrow night matchups. Going with Filio, Ashmouz, Chris Duncan, Kianzad, and Vieira. I kind of, if you've watched the other videos, they kind of already have matchups made. I'll go over them quickly just to remind, because I talked about other girls that have fought recently and given them the winner and loser of this matchup. Muradov, Joel Alvarez, Andre Muniz, Paul Craig, Lerone Murphy, Nathaniel Wood, and Tom Aspinall. Get matchups for those guys. Then Thursday we'll come back. We have UFC 291 in Salt Lake. Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier 2, Polish Power, Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira, up at 205, his 205 debut. Obviously, he's fought at pretty high weights over in kickboxing, but yeah, I'm super excited. There's some more bangers. We'll talk about them later. Drop a like and subscribe, and check out the videos tomorrow and Thursday. Peace out.